And on this rock, I will build my church. If you haven't underlined that, with all due respect, please highlight and underline my church. Jesus saying, I will build my church. And again, I just marvel that Jesus before this had never talked about the church. The church was never mentioned. This is the first time in history Jesus, who is King, who's Lord, who is the builder of the church, now for the first time in history preaches and speaks about the church. But note, it's based on the revelation of Him and understanding of who He is, and then explaining to Peter who He is, and then he begins to talk about this church. It's so connected. We can talk about the church all the time, but if we don't talk about who Christ is and the revelation of Jesus to help us know who we are, the church can never function in the fullness of what God intended. And so he says, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not overcome it. Speaking of this destiny and purpose, and a church that's front-footed. And let me just say, there are religions out there that talk about Jesus is saying He's building his church on a person called Peter. Now, sounds great, but unbiblical and cannot work, because anything that is built on a man cannot stand. I don't want to be based in a church or involved in a church that's built on a man. It's built on Christ. Jesus didn't say, hey Peter, I'm building my church on you. Jesus was actually saying, hey Peter, I'm building my church on your revelation of me. In other words, I'm building my church on me. And by the way, I'm changing your name and giving you identity. And so the point I want to make is, it's not built on a man. It's not built on a gift. It's not built on a ministry. It's not built on a translocal team. It's not built on a pastor or a leader. It's built on the revelation of Jesus. And friends, we can talk the characteristics of the church and give all these concepts, principles, and thoughts. But if this truth is not taught and caught and preached and built around Christ, then the church has no hope. There is no hope for any church built on a man other than Jesus Christ. And that's why I believe it's so important to make sure we're not building around others, we're building around Christ, the chief cornerstone, the cornerstone. Without Him, the church will be shaken. And we've seen the church shaken, and I want to suggest we probably will keep seeing it shaken. Why? Because it's got to be built on the rock, on the revelation of Christ and Christ alone. That's important for us. It's important for people. If you're a leader, you should help people see Christ in this, because your church will fall apart if the revelation's on anyone else. And there's no future for a church like that.